Hello, episode 6. You're at The Ball Card Show, and we're glad that you're joining us today. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing great, man. It was a little bit of a long day, really hot outside. I'm kind of chunky, which makes it kind of unpleasant. But other than that,
I
day
prefer
was
to
pretty
call
solid.
you thick.
With 2 C's?
2 C's, bro.
2 C's, baby.
I'll give you both. Of them. You're thick. Buddy of mine says thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
Okay. We ate more cream of wheat when I was a kid than we did oatmeal.
Of course you did.
But that's just me. And grits. We ate a lot of grits.
Anyway, episode 6, and we've got a little bit to talk about.
A lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on. Once again, just a reminder, if you didn't know about it, we're a part of the Press Play Podcast Network. A lot of great content out there. If you're somebody like me that works with their AirPods in or headphones, if you don't happen to do Apple products.
If you're a smart person.
But anyway, if you're somebody that listens to audiobooks, podcasts, be sure to check out the Press Play Podcast Network. Great content all over the place.
Yes, sir. Tons of stuff. What's on the agenda for episode 6? Let's give a rundown of what we're going to hit, and then we'll get into it.
We're going to talk about the National.
Yes.
The National.
The National.
We're going to talk about what's happening in the card market, some interesting things taking place in retail and in hobby space with new product drops. There's moves going on in the NBA.
Some of them are a little crazy.
Is LeBron actually working on a Toon Squad?
Ah.
Maybe unintentionally, quite literally. Toon Squad going on. We got powerhouse teams moving to powerhouse conferences, and we got NFL camps opening up. There's a lot going on in sports this week. While it feels like there's nothing to watch, there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
There's always a baseball game to watch, and the Olympics are going on right now. If you really want to watch like trap shooting and gymnastics, or the United States getting spanked in basketball, sadly.
By France.
Yeah, it was rough. I mean, France had some NBA players, but it was rough.
Yeah, it was bad. Anyway, the Nationals this week up in Chi-Town,
Yes,
Chicago.
it's going on right now. If you're listening to this on a Friday, on release day, you might actually be at the National. We talked about going this year. Didn't end up happening. Hopefully next year we'll get there and maybe even do a live show. We'll see what happens. But if you've never been to the National, or you're sitting here going, what are they talking about, the National? The National is the largest sports collectibles convention in the United States. It's technically called the National Collectors Convention, but it is 99% sports cards and sports memorabilia, and it is ginormous. Everybody is there. There's players will be there signing autographs. The major grading companies do on-site grading, which is hilarious to me right now. And you can occasionally find good deals on product. Most of the time, you're going to overpay for things when you're there.
You're making it sound like a lot of fun.
I mean, it is a lot of fun. You just have to go in with the right mindset. I've been to the National before when it was in Cleveland. Hopefully, it's back in Cleveland at some point. It was in Cleveland for a long time every year, but then the convention center up there went out of business, so they're not sure where it was going to be.
One good thing, if we're in Cleveland, we will have the Guardians watching over the traffic.
Are we going to make fun of
For a
that name
safe
this
drive.
week too?
Absolutely. Can we jump right into that?
To just making fun of that name?
Yeah, we did this last week, didn't we?
We did, but there's so much work you can do on that front.
You know, sometimes you get like a new name and you're like adjusting to it and you're like, I'll get used to it.
Not this one.
I don't know.
This is a horrible name.
As if Cleveland didn't already have enough of a chip on its shoulder.
Oh, it's so bad. Now, I have heard people like giving the logo a hard time. I'm going to be frank. I don't hate the logo.
Getting rid of the Block C is good.
Yes, I don't hate the logo, but the name is terrible. Just absolutely terrible. There's so many ways they could have gone that wouldn't have been as bad, including like the Cleveland Grass or like paint drying baseball team, all better than the Guardians.
I think your submissions are terrible.
Still better than the Guardians.
But anyway, maybe it'll be in Cleveland next year. Hey, do you remember, I was looking online, I'm trying to find it right now, what some of the pricing was for on-site grading for PSA at the National?
Oh, it was crazy, though. $400 or $500. And it was like, if you don't get the card dropped off within the first 35 seconds of the show being open, you won't get it back. It was
Ever.
Yeah,
They keep
they
it.
just keep it forever. It was crazy. PSA doing on-site grading, which they've done for years, but never at this price point. BGS will do some on-site grading there too. BGS usually,
They're open?
well, they're open at certain service levels. What BGS tends to do is what's called raw card review on site. So they'll review the card, they'll slap it into a card saver, and then they'll put a gold foil seal on it with the grade that they think it will get when it's actually graded.
So, in the era of people abusing eBay, do you think that the raw grade holds credibility third party like
You
it
talk about
used
the raw card review?
Yeah.
It's never held a ton. Here's the problem with raw card review. It's not in a slab yet. It's still just in a card saver, which is not even as much protection as a top loader. It's not as rigid. So they can throw that seal on it, and the grader that looked at it says that's his opinion on what it is. But you could still send that card into Beckett, even with that raw card review tag on it, and you might get an 8.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's ever held a massive premium. It gives you an idea of what the card is probably going to do, but it doesn't do anything crazy. And to anybody that gets a raw card review from BGS and gets a 10, or it's never going to show up on eBay to buy anyway. They're going to send it directly in and try to get that actual 10 on it.
I wish you could get that kind of service in place with all the grading right now, where you pay this extra add-on and they'll give it a quick look over, and if they don't think it has a chance to be blah, 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 then you don't have to pay the rest.
So a lot
Send
of
it
group
back.
subs do that. So a lot of group sub
I know,
services
but I
do
mean
that.
on site. If you send it direct, that'd be
Oh,
sweet.
they'll never ever do that because it takes money out of their pocket.
I know, but they're just never going to get stuff turned around.
Now with PSA, you can, just any grading company, you can set a minimum grade that you will accept, which is silly to do. The only time it makes sense with PSA is if you have a really high-end card, because the way PSA prices their services, the more valuable your card is, the more they charge you to grade it. So if you send in let's use an example that everybody's probably familiar with. You send in a Michael Jordan rookie card, right? And in a PSA 10, that card's a $700,000 card, $600,000 card, $1 million card, whatever that is at the time, wherever the market's at. A PSA 9 is $40,000. If you put a minimum requested grade of 9 on your Michael Jordan and it doesn't meet that, they're only going to charge you the lowest service level that you sent it under. Mm-hmm. So there are times where it makes sense to do it that way. Yeah. Because the difference in tier, like you send in a Michael Jordan rookie and it 10s, they're charging you $5,000. Mm-hmm. That's just how they work. They're the only grading company that does that. It's a racket. It's silly, but people have bought into it.
But here we are, complaining about grading for the fourth straight
complaining
week.
about PSA.
All
I
right, let's
hate PSA
move
so
on.
much.
Hey, good news, everyone. Good news out there. Good news for all of us, I think. You know, we've all been in a panic a little bit about some of the market correction, some of the cards that we bought, maybe some of the slabs we got back, some of the things we were holding on to, and we're seeing them just lose a tremendous amount of value.
Kevin Durant, PSA 9.
We don't need to mention by name. It was very unnecessary and quite frankly hurtful. But some cool things are coming. Things like being able to get retail. I think it's on the horizon. I think it's going to happen quickly. You were just telling me that you've been able to source products like Contenders football retail for just $10 to $15 over retail cost.
Actually, I've bought 2 large lots of sealed retail product in the last week. The first one I got at about 25% under what retail cost would be. And it's not high-end product, so let's not get too crazy. I don't know that we're going to start seeing this with like Prism and things like that. Right. But this is, 2021 NFL
license
draft products. So Chronicles, Prism, they're draft products. I got 24 blasters at about 25% under retail. And then today I bought another large lot of, I think, 5 blasters, 5 megas of Chronicles, and then 5 megas of Prism Draft for about $15 under retail.
Wow.
For the whole lot. So again, not products that I would ever pay more than retail for. Mm-hmm. The fact that I was able to get them for under retail, it puts me in a position where I can rip a few of them, throw a few in the closet. This quarterback class is so good and so big that
give
even
one
draft
or two,
products.
Give one or two to your buddy.
I'll sell them to you at retail.
See, he's already marking them up. He's already.
By the time I pay shipping, I'm there.
Oh, shipping.
Retail.
Shipping.
Oh, about shipping on a big carton of 24 blasters.
Something to me?
Well, no, but I had to pay the shipping to get it to me.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, more importantly, what this indicates is you've had a lot of these flippers or people that were had access to a distributor or someone in retail, and they've been buying massive products, and they've kind of said, whatever you get, I'll pay you, and I'll slip you this money, blah, blah, blah. This is indicating that they have a lot of inventory, and the demand has dropped to pay 2, 3, 4, 5x.
That's the key.
On retail. So this is good for people like you and me that enjoy walking into Walmart or Target and eventually hoping to see 1 or 2 licensed products on the shelf. Yeah. You don't need to buy 15 because there's scarcity unless you love it. You can grab a box or 2 on your lunch break. So I think this is one of the positive things that will come out of the market correction is it's actually fixing things, making them more accessible. This is the trade-off.
The sneaker boys are bailing.
Yes, the sneaker boys are bailing because the money isn't fast enough right now.
Right.
Dogecoin has tanked.
Yeah.
So
well, and it goes. It's the same thing. We're seeing it with hobby stuff too, and I know that's on the list. And we're talking about products, so let's dive into that too, because we're seeing on the hobby side of things as well. Panini does Dutch auctions. If you're not familiar with what a Dutch auction is, technically what they do isn't, but it's what everybody considers a Dutch auction. So we'll just talk about what they do.
They say very clear and concise.
Yes. What they call a Dutch auction is this. Here's a new product that we are releasing. It's only going to be available through our website, and it's going to start being released at this point, at this time, Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, whatever it is. They start the price at, so Panini Select Basketball, 2021 Panini Select first off the line came out this week. I think the starting price in the Dutch auction was $3,000 a box. Every 10 minutes, the price drops a certain increment. And it'll keep dropping until they sell out or until they think that they're not going to make enough money and they shut it down. Mm-hmm. When they first started doing this, stuff was going for crazy, crazy prices. Now things have cooled down, and I know that Select didn't sell out until it got to $750 a box, which sounds like a huge number, but last year's first off the line Select was $3,000. Mm-hmm. So we're starting, I said this a couple weeks ago, the days of $200, $250 boxes of Prism Hobby are gone, but so are the days of $2,000 boxes of Prism Hobby. I think we're going to get into that mid to higher range accessible product in hobby in that $700 to $800 range consistently. And then lower end stuff like Donruss or Hoops or Score is going to settle into that $200 to $300 range. So we're still 2 to 3 times what it used to be, but we're not 10 to 12.
Yeah. And that's kind of the hustle that I like to do. It's like a mid-length flip. It's not super fast. It's not a super long hold. But whenever there's hobby product accessible and you're in that $300 range on a hobby box, I like to buy a lot of that kind of stuff. And then similar to the Bowman concept we talked about, if you missed the last episode, episode 5, we talked about prospecting baseball players and how you hang on to cards. Sometimes that low-end product, get all your rookies, sleeve them up, make sure that they're protected, put them away for a couple years, and then 1 or 2 of those rookie pops, and you're trading for high-end product, high-end sealed product sometimes, sending off to grading for a big flip.
Yep.
But when that hobby product becomes available at that price point on the lower end stuff, I have fun flipping that and seeing it's almost like a game. What can I work this trade or sale up to?
Well, and what's really fun to do too, if you have the discipline to do it, is if you can buy that hobby stuff and then just stick it in your closet. Don't even open it. Yeah. Stick it in your closet, and 6 months, 8 months, a year later, 2 years later, you're sitting on a nice chunk of change. Maybe you could open it and maybe hit something big, but if you paid $300 for it and 2 years from now you can sell it for $1,800,
Nothing wrong with that.
you did all right.
And don't forget, we talked about it before, which reminds me, Gary was talking about with redemptions. That's something to think about. You have that big rookie, make sure it's not a redemption only, because once it gets past an expiration date, you won't get it. Reminds me of a meme I saw. There's a guy that was at the National. He's probably still there. He's probably still out front with his poster board, holding up a sign, telling people just how long it's been, and he's still waiting on his redemption, and it's over 10 years.
Yeah, it was like 10 years, 3 months, and 22 days, something like that.
Yeah, the caption was something along the lines of, "This is the real hero of the National."
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening with new product releases. If you've been scared out of the pricing, we do see indications that some of that's going to be a more accessible price point. It's still not cheap. It's not a cheap hobby by any means, but you'll have more opportunities to get in at that entry level or low end level, even at the hobby product, which, as a reminder, hobby has guaranteed hits within them. That doesn't always mean good ones,
right,
but they're guaranteed X amount of autographs, or there's certain variations. So the opportunity of hitting a larger card is there. Here in just a second, we're going to jump into some crazy stuff that's been going on in the wide world of sports. Are we allowed to say wide world of sports, or is that?
I'm not worried about anybody suing us. I think we're good.
Yeah. So anyway,
the wide world of sports.
Yeah, here in a second we're going to do that. But before we jump into that, we want to make you aware of some awesome podcasts happening right now at the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
Want to hear more about your favorite TV shows and movies that are on countless streaming services?
Then listen to Up Next with your new favorite hosts, me, Kristen Aviles,
and me, Christina Walter.
Every other week, we'll highlight one genre, but 2 movies or TV shows, one old and one new.
We'll let you know what's hot and what's not from your favorite
or least favorite
streaming services.
And be sure to stay tuned to the end of each episode where we shout out an artist whose name you should know for their talent in the industry.
So follow us to stay up to date with your favorite hosts from Up Next,
a part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
All right, we're back, and the first thing I want to jump right into is this trade rumor. Russell Westbrook. You know, let's just start with let's play a game. Let's play a game. If you had to pick one teammate to be the most polarizing teammate with Russell Westbrook, anybody in the league, who do you think would be the worst fit for Russell Westbrook?
With the game of basketball, really, I don't know that there's a correct answer
it's
to that.
It's a trick question.
Almost everybody. That's what I was going to say. Everyone is a bad fit with Russell Westbrook. I've never seen a Hall of Fame caliber player. And Russell Westbrook, listen, don't get me wrong. Russell Westbrook is a brilliant basketball player in his own right.
For sure.
And if the NBA wasn't teams and it was just 1v1 games, Russell Westbrook would be the greatest of all time. But that's not what the NBA is. Mm-hmm. And the idea of Russell Westbrook to the Lakers, and the Lakers giving up Montrezl Harrell, the Lakers giving up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who, let's be honest, there are times when LeBron's hurt and AD is hobbled and Kyle Kuzma's cold, Pope's the only offense they got. And a 2021 draft pick, like, that trade is mind-numbing to me. You're going to have LeBron being like, here, let's run this offense. and he's going to pass the ball in the wing to Russell Westbrook, and
What
the
happens?
offense is going to come to a grinding halt.
What happens when Russell touches the ball?
Oh, it stops, and the shot's going to happen
Yep.
sometime in the next 15 seconds.
Yep.
But nobody else is going to touch it.
Yeah.
It's going to be him. You look at the Wizards this last year as a perfect example. There's a reason that no team that dude has ever been on has advanced to the finals. With the Wizards last year, you have Bradley Beal, who's the leading scorer in the NBA, or one of the leading scorers in the NBA, a really good player that a lot of people don't give a lot of credit to. You've got a second-year player in Rui Hachimura who is showing a lot of promise, and you've got some good role players there. And they bring in Russell Westbrook thinking, okay, now we've got our big two and a decent supporting cast. That team was drastically better when Russell Westbrook was hurt and off the court, like drastically better.
It's sad to say, but it's true.
That's just how it is.
That's just the on the court issues.
Yes, I mean his off the court issues are the same issues as Kevin Durant's. Like he's just not a very likable human. It's not that he has a lot of off court issues. He's just kind of a jerk.
So do you think that essentially when you're talking about the Lakers, there's this assumption that LeBron's running the front office and everything, right? But he does have massive pull in the market. Do you think let me back up. There's a portrayal of LeBron that he's very demanding. He can't be a good teammate.
You've never heard a teammate say that about him.
Yeah. So where do you think that really is? Because a lot of public perception is, oh man, that's two big egos. LeBron is so dramatic, and he needs the ball.
Are we going to real talk?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Okay, if we're going to real talk, it's very simple. The perception that the average person has of LeBron James is shockingly misinformed, and the vast majority of people who hate LeBron James always talk about his political stances and his social justice stances. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the game of basketball. Anybody who knows the game of basketball can tell you just how great LeBron James is, how good of a teammate he is, how much of a facilitator he is. But God forbid a rich black man use his platform to speak up for other black people, and now he's hated by a lot of people. I mean, real talk.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I love when you break down, like, what do you mean you don't like? Well, he's out there doing his schools.
Yeah.
Giving people bikes.
Not cheating on his wife, taking care of his kids. How dare he? How dare
Doing
he?
Disney movies.
How dare he, when a cop murders somebody, say something about it? He should just shut up and dribble.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you on that. And here's the thing. LeBron's generation, which is mine and younger, aren't going to shut up because that's just how people are wired. And honestly, people are digging for more of that. But it is interesting that there's that perception. So I took my kids to watch the new Space Jam, right? It got terrible reviews. I didn't hate it.
I watched it on
was
HBO.
It was enjoyable.
Yeah, I didn't hate it either. I did a couple other things while I was watching it, but it was good, solid background noise, just like the original Space Jam was.
Yeah.
It's not like Michael Jordan won a freaking Oscar for Space Jam.
Yeah, I love how they talk about in The Last Dance how it's like, no, during Space Jam, that's when Michael really tuned his game. Because he had on a Warner Brothers lot. He had a tent.
So
and
dumb.
Anyway. So, yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is my son at the end of the movie is like, maybe I don't hate LeBron. That's what he said. So, all it took was a movie.
His mom's been like just poisoning him against LeBron.
Yeah, I think one thing that'll be a challenge for Westbrook and LeBron is, one, they both want to shoot just about every time they touch. LeBron passes it a little bit more.
A little bit.
A little bit more than
LeBron's a
Westbrook.
facilitator, bro. That's what he
Okay.
does.
I'm not going to go quite as far as you are with it, but they both want to be in charge of what is happening on the court. And I think
Russell Westbrook's not going to be.
Yeah, I think he still thinks he is.
He's not.
But I think that's not going to stop him from thinking that.
Well, no, he'll continue to think it until he's dead, but he's not. And if he doesn't fit into what they're doing there, he's going to spend a lot of time on the bench.
So what's the prognosis? What do you think? What does this do for the Lakers?
I think they're going to be lucky to finish top 6 if Russell Westbrook is healthy the whole year in the West. They have too much talent to not make the playoffs. It's not like they're going to tank out, but there's going to be a lot of discord in that locker room.
And the West is going to be hungry.
There's a lot. There's a lot of talent out there. This was a weird year this year. Not to take anything away from the Bucks. They won a championship. Good for them. But a lot of things had to go bad out west for the Bucks to win a championship.
Yeah. I'd also say this. The Suns aren't a fluke. They're a predominantly young, talented team that plays well together, and they're going to be a threat for a while.
Denver is the team that I think if they can get everybody healthy, Jamal Murray comes back healthy, you got Joker coming off an MVP season. Michael Porter Jr. is a legit scorer who is just starting to get the confidence level it takes to be an upper tier player in the NBA. You see flashes of it. You saw, 10, 12 game stretches where he's averaging 28 and 10. That kid can play, and they've got a couple other solid role players. Gary Harris is a really good player. They've got some guys out there.
Yeah. Big things happening in the SEC.
Well, I mean, big things. Not
SEC
big things.
is the big thing.
Texas and Oklahoma.
Where does it stop?
Have been invited to the SEC.
Where does it stop?
Well, I think that if we're looking big picture, it eventually becomes football is no longer regulated by the NCAA.
At what point is this imperialism? That's the question I need to answer. Where does it stop? Where is the rebellion?
If Ohio State and Clemson end up in the SEC, then we'll
big
have a
conference, we don't have enough talented teams to fight it right now. Like the argument of SEC versus the world, they're getting every big market. The money is getting massive.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like the Big Ten doesn't have massive money as well.
Yeah, there's a few fans. But the point I'm trying to make, like that's a huge play. Texas and Oklahoma.
Well, yeah, the Big 12 will die.
It's over.
That'll be the end of the Big 12. They'll dissolve. All those schools will end up. So, and let's be frank, half of the teams in the Big 12 should be in the Mountain West anyway. They're awful. There's no reason they should be in a major conference. Like, Iowa State's a nice feel-good story, but it's like Rutgers being in the Big Ten. Why?
Yeah.
Like, I know the Big Ten wanted the New York media market. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Rutgers, great, thanks.
It's just that many more primetime SEC games.
Yeah, I mean, you just end up in situations where you have 64-12 scores every other week instead of every 3 weeks.
Yeah. All right, let's talk NFL.
Camp's
Last little
open.
section.
Yeah.
Camp is open.
Camps are open. Aaron Rodgers reported after some deep soul-seeking discussions.
Oh, thank you, Aaron, for searching so deeply inside.
And I think what they really boiled down to was Aaron Rodgers wanted a summer off. Aaron Rodgers wanted a summer off.
It worked.
Yeah, he did. And I think that he'll end up playing somewhere else next year. I don't think he'll be back there next year. I think he came in this year because they played hardball and weren't going to trade him, and he wasn't ready to retire. But the only way he was coming back was if they agreed to a few things, and that's one of them. No tag. He gets control of what happens after this year.
You think that game show host thing is real or just like a pattern interrupt in the whole conversation?
So this is just me as some guy who pays attention to sports. It's not like I have an inside line to Aaron Rodgers. If I did, he'd be on the podcast with us. Watching Aaron Rodgers over the years, reading articles about him, reading what teammates have said about him over the years, I don't think that that's an off-the-wall thing. That dude is super smart. He is a Renaissance man. He likes to study and read and learn just random things. That's why the idea of hosting Jeopardy was so appealing to him. Like, that's him. He could be a contestant on Jeopardy. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think that's a crazy thing. I think that he was looking at what his options were, and he was trying to make it very clear to Green Bay that if there weren't some serious changes, he was going to do it. I mean, the dude's made millions and millions and millions of dollars. He doesn't have to play anymore if he doesn't want to, and he'll be a first ballot unanimous Hall of Famer exactly 5 years after he retires.
All right, so let's pop or drop Rodgers right now. He's going to be in Green Bay again. Beyond that is speculative. There's some drama in the clubhouse. You're looking at one of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in a generation for sure.
I think that his rookie cards are undervalued outside of like the Topps Chrome stuff. Everything else I think is very undervalued. I'll give you an example. I actually just bought an Aaron Rodgers rookie card yesterday. It's an HGA slab. I honestly bought it more because I wanted to get an HGA slab in hand to actually feel it and look at it and see it. It's an 8.5. They grade tough, means it's probably a PSA 9, SGC 9, right in that range. I paid $35 shipped for it.
Crazy.
It's an upper deck Aaron Rodgers base upper deck rookie. I paid $35 for it. It cost the guy $30 to grade it. So I paid $5 for the card, basically, and I'll get an HGA slab and get to see them feel what they look like.
What'd
That
you
was
think
more
of the
my
slabs?
purpose. I don't know yet. It isn't here yet.
No?
I bought it yesterday. I
That
got a
was
tracking number
uneventful.
last night, and I'll bring it in, and we'll talk about it when I get it in.
All right. Well, that was a good question to ask.
But
Also,
yeah, so
how are all those blasters you bought? Contenders?
they're not here yet either.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They'll be here on Monday.
All right. I knew. I was just kind
Yeah, I
of.
know. You're messing with
All
me.
right. Little man named Burrow down in Cincinnati, looking healthy.
Yeah, and he says he's about 100%, will be by the time camp is done. He's running through all the drills, doing everything.
Rumor has it no preseason games for him.
Probably not. If
Yeah.
the Bengals are smart, that's probably a really good idea. He can get all the work he needs done in practice and in multi-team scrimmages. And practice NFL teams, if you guys aren't aware, almost all of them have at least one, if not two, during camp, 2-day joint practices with other teams where they do 7-on-7 stuff. They do some small full team stuff, and he'll get his work there. I'm not worried about that. The kid's just good. He's just good. It's that simple.
Is he still undervalued right now?
Yes. And his stuff is already started to move.
Yeah.
It's not to Justin Herbert yet, but it's starting to move.
Yeah, now's the time if you're thinking about picking up some Burrow stuff. Because if he gets in and he goes for 3 touchdowns early on, people, collectors are looking for a reason to get that spike in the market again.
Yeah.
They're hoping on it. Some people have lost a lot of money on this little dip
Yeah.
of correction. So now might be the right time. And I'm telling you, where I'm seeing it on the cheap, if you have a way to access raw rookies, raw means not graded, somebody you trust, maybe a Facebook group where there's like actual people administrating it, keeping an eye on things, you can make some steals right now on raw stuff where people have had stacks that they wanted to send to grade, but now they can't. And so some base rookie stuff isn't even that exciting for them to send right now. Now is the time to ask around for some of that.
And you can even get numbered stuff on the cheap.
Yeah.
It just depends on what products you're targeting. So, for example, we're talking about Joe Burrow. I bought and I actually just sent it off to grading. Jason and I were talking about some of this stuff before we started recording tonight. I sent it off to grading. I bought a raw Joe Burrow Mosaic Blue Reactive rookie. Short print, not crazy short print, but a short print card, a variation. I think I paid $20 for it. At one point, that card was $80, $90 raw, and I think on eBay it's probably still $60. I got it for $20 on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's another thing when you're trying to buy stuff on Facebook. Sellers get mad about it. When I sell stuff on Facebook, it annoys me. But I know what I'm getting into when I get there. Guys, don't be afraid to throw an offer at somebody. The worst possible thing that can happen is they type back the word no. You don't even have to worry about them verbally saying the word no. Worst case scenario, you have to read the word no.
Usually they say no thanks. Even.
Yeah, but I got that for like $20. I bought a Gridiron King, so in Chronicles. See, I like those cards. I think they're a cool looking card. It's like a painting, right? It's canvas, but I got a Joe Burrow numbered to 199 for like $19, $18, something like that. That's an absolute no brainer. If the guy just goes on to be just a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, 2 years from now that card's worth $300.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about him. I think he's the real deal. I think, especially if you have somebody this young that actually comes back from that type of an injury and shows that type of grit and determination. I know that sounds cliche and dramatic, but seriously, quarterbacks have ended their careers, even though they've stuck around a few years after injuries like this, many times over. So if he shows up again in this program, he's looking healthy, he's moving, and if he can have a little bit of protection, I still think that's a great play to get in on some of his stuff now.
Another guy, 2 other guys, quarterback-wise, that I've heard really good things about from the summer and going into camps. Jalen Hurts is going to be given every single opportunity to be the long-term solution at quarterback for the Eagles. And from what I'm hearing and seeing, he is showing signs that he could be that. The other guy that I heard really great things about, and it relates to what we were talking about earlier, is Jordan Love. Jordan Love spent the whole summer getting all the first-team reps in all the OTAs, and from all accounts looked really, really good.
Yeah.
What that tells me is that if he gets another year to watch and learn, much like the guy he'll be replacing did for 3 years, you've got a real opportunity for him to step in when Rodgers is gone in a year or two and really, really play well. And his stuff right now, especially just in the last 12 to 15 hours once Rodgers came back to camp, his stuff has tanked 25, 30% because people thought he was going to be the starter, so his stuff was spiking.
Yeah.
And now it's tanked. It's a great time between now and the end of camp, especially if he has decent preseason games. Buy his stuff.
Here's an encouragement for collectors, and so especially if you're just getting back into it, the perspective on players now, the view of the investment on a rookie card has become so short term.
Right.
Especially in the last couple of years because the market was that nuts. If somebody went off for a triple-double, their rookie card could double overnight or triple. It was happening. So when we're talking about Jordan Love, like start taking that angle where, well, how good of a deal can I get on this guy that might sit one more year? Because a lot of people aren't going to be protecting that card. There's going to be a lot of raw cards thrown around. So you need to think about this. There's going to be a lot of these Love rookie cards that people are going to like, oh, they need that top loader. They're going to take it out.
Jacob Eason is the same way.
Eason, they're going to get dinged up. Grab those. What is it? What's it going to hurt? And at the end of the day, 2 years is still pretty short term on an investment.
It is in the great grand scheme of things, but nobody thinks about sports cards that way.
No.
In the last 18
They're
months.
scratch-offs lately.
Yes. And it's just what Jason was just saying is so true. The reason that Tom Brady rookie cards, other than the fact that Tom Brady is the greatest to ever play the position, the reason that his rookie cards are so highly priced is not because they didn't make very many of them. They made a ton of them. But he was nobody. He was a 6th-round pick, and people didn't keep the cards. They threw them away or they just stuck them in a box, and they got beat to hell and back. And now in a high grade, they're tough.
Yeah. Quarterbacks, hang on to them.
Jamar Chase, hang on to Jamar Chase, too. I'm big on Jamar Chase.
Yeah?
I'm a Bengals fan, so full disclosure, a little homery. Jamar Chase is going to be the best receiver come out of this draft. Devontae Smith, he'll have a game here, a game there, but the dude weighs 12 pounds. He's going to get beat up by NFL corners. Jamar Chase is legit.
Take his lunch.
It will. Jamar Chase is legit. Jalen Waddle is fast enough that they keep him in the slot and don't let him get pressed. He's going to be legit, too, except Tua can't throw the ball that far, so it won't matter. I know.
We don't know that
Jason
yet.
just eyeballed me sideways. He's a Dolphins
Yeah,
fan.
Tua's a tank, so give me your rookie cards. You can ship them to me. Just reach out to us on the Press Play Podcast Network to get a hold of us. You know, that kind of stuff.
Jump
Big
on
on
the
Miami
Facebook.
this year. Big on Miami.
Okay. A solid 8-8 year coming up.
You know, that's not the worst thing. We're chasing Buffalo this year.
Well, you'll be chasing. That's true.
Oh, gosh.
A lot of chase.
Well, I can't cuss you out on episode 6. I'll save that.
No,
for-
we'll save it for episode 10.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for listening to us. Episode 6 of the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast for the sports collector.